ESPN Radio 94.1, 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Matt Hatfield here with you, getting set for Super Sunday, which you can catch all the action right here on ESPN Radio 94.1. And we're pleased to be joined by one of the very best in the business, a former NFL defensive lineman who's now part of the broadcast team at Westwood One Sports as a field reporter. A name that people around here are so familiar with because they've listened to him for many mornings waking up to get their sports fix. Mike Golic with us. Mike, thanks for joining us. You were part of that iconic Mike and Mike morning tandem, and we're so glad to hear your voice back on ESPN Radio 94.1. You enjoying your new gig on the sidelines?
Appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely am. Listen, I certainly miss the everyday sports talk, no doubt about that. But, for 25 years, I've actually gone to the Super Bowl to cover it, but I've never stayed for the game. I was always jealous of the players on the field, so I'd go watch it at home. Now this is the first one I'm actually attending, and to be able to work it now as well, man, I'm very, very excited.
You've been involved in the game of football as a player and covering it for a lot of years. Where does this Bengals team rank as far as unlikely participants? I mean, in my eyes, maybe the biggest since the Cardinals 13 years ago, but even they had someone that climbed that mountain before at quarterback in Kurt Warner. And are you a believer in Cincinnati could have a little that satisfied to be their mentality after taking down the Chiefs, that big comeback, or is that kind of overplayed in your eyes?
No, I think that's overplayed, and I think a lot has to do with the attitude of these young players. You know, Joe Burrow, he grew up not that far from Cincinnati, so he saw growing up the misery that Cincinnati fans had to deal with, and he's come in with that attitude. You know, when they swept Baltimore, when they swept Pittsburgh, he said, we expect to do that. You know, we expect to start a new legacy here. So it seems like a team that is not satisfied with just getting further than they've gotten before. They think they have a good enough team to win, and man, with so many young, talented players on that team, their window is going to be open for a while. So, no, I don't think at all this team is going to be like, oh, we're just happy to be here. I think you'll get the best of them. Now, if that'll be enough, we'll have to wait and see.
The matchup many wonder about, and you've been a defensive lineman, this is kind of in your wheelhouse, is how Cincinnati's offensive line, which gave up 9 sacks in the divisional round against Tennessee. Granted, they played a lot better in the conference championship game against Kansas City, but how they blocked that defensive front of the Rams with a couple of defensive player of the year guys and Hall of Famers and Aaron Donald and Von Miller. Can they block them, and will this game ultimately boil down to that in many ways?
Well, I mean, that without question is the biggest mismatch of matchups we're talking about on the field. Joe Burrow is the first quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl after being sacked the most in the regular season. So, but they still find a way to win. Then in the postseason, he was sacked 12 times, and they still are winning the games. Can the front five consistently block the front four from the Rams? No, they can't. So how do they mix it up? Max protect with the tight end or a back. Run draws, run screens. If your running game is working to an extent, play action. The big thing to me is going to be third down. If they get the third downs, is it 3rd and 4 or less, 3rd and 3 or less, your playbook opens up. You can probably keep 5 in front because you can run shorter routes to get the first down. If you're in 3rd and 6 or 7 plus, now your routes have to be a little deeper. You may need some help on that line. But I talked to Charlie Williams, their left tackle, a few days ago, and he said, listen, we know the talk, and we know the numbers. He said, all we can do is continue to try and execute. He said, we know we're up against a great defense. If we get beat in a play, I got 40 seconds to run the next play. I can't mope about that play. We got to get ready for the next play. But there's no doubt it's a mismatch, and Cincinnati's going to rotate their right guard position with 2 players, which you don't really see a lot today. So it's definitely a struggle for them, and they know it, and they hear it every single day. So, let's see how they step up.
Mike, there's so much being made about the passing games, and understandably so, with the talent on the field, with the 2 quarterbacks and Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow and the receivers. You got Jamar Chase, who's having a fantastic debut, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham. We'll get to those. But as far as the running games go, with Joe Mixon for Cincinnati, Cam Akers, who had a couple of fumbles 2 weeks back against Tampa Bay in the divisional round, how do you size up the 2 running games against these defenses?
Well, I mean, you sit there and look at both their running games. In the regular season, they were one ranked 23rd, I think Cincinnati, the other 25th, a little over 100 yards, a little under 100 yards. They're not great running games, but that doesn't mean you don't try and run. Like I was working the sideline for the Rams and Tampa Bay, and Cam Akers, Tampa Bay's run defense was like number 1 in the league, but the Rams just kept trying to run. And you do that. You get your rushing attempts, so that's still a threat to the defense, and that can help set up your play-action pass. So neither one of these running games are great, but but they're going to run. You need to run to control the ball and also to let that defense know, hey, we are still going to try and run the ball, so you have to honor that threat. And if they can actually bust one or two on either side of it, then it becomes more of a threat. But they're really more complementary to the passing game than anything else, hoping to bust one. They're going to run, but they're not great running teams.
We're chatting with former NFL defensive lineman and morning show host Mike Golic. You can follow him on Twitter at Golic. He's now part of the broadcast team for Westwood One Sports, working the sidelines. You can catch Super Bowl 56, our coverage beginning at 5 Eastern on Sunday right here on ESPN Radio 94.1 as the Cincinnati Bengals take on the Los Angeles Rams there at SoFi Stadium. And Mike, playing at SoFi, much about the home field advantage here. Second year in a row, we see a home team in the big game. Of course, Tampa Bay last year took down Kansas City in that one. Do you see that playing much of a factor at all here, the home field advantage, or not so much?
No, I don't really think so. Outside of, the Rams being able to stay in their own homes, in their own beds until they go to they go to their hotel, they get to work out of their facility. Though I think today they're working out the Rose Bowl. Other than that, the ticket distribution isn't like a normal regular season game, home team, visiting team. It's completely different. So outside of just the comfort of not having to get on a plane and travel everywhere, I don't think when the game starts playing, that home field really has a whole lot to do with this.
One of the things that really jumps out at me is going into the playoffs, Mike, the Rams were banged up at safety. They had to take down the Cardinals, which they did, a divisional foe, Tampa Bay, and the 49ers, a very physical team. They bring Eric Weddle out of retirement. Could they have as hard of a time covering Jamar Chase and those receiving weapons of the Bengals as Cincinnati does, defending Cooper Kupp, who's having just an unbelievable year, and Odell Beckham?
Well, you have to see where, Eric Weddle guy, he's going to be a guy that plays up toward the line and help against the run and maybe helping coverage. But, Jalen is pretty much going to be on Jamar Chase. Where the safety coverage can hurt you is the middle of the field. So I think two of the biggest routes that have gone on in the NFL this year are the naked boot by the quarterback and crossing routes in the middle of the field. So how does the Rams, their safeties and linebackers, cover crossing routes? We saw T. Higgins make catches over the middle in that last game. So that, to me, the middle of the field is always a very, very interesting place to catch the ball. Boyd, I think, does a great job of that also for Cincinnati. So that, to me, is the part of the field. Since he'll take those shots over the top, you'll see Jamar going down the sideline and that back shoulder throw from Burrow that they've done since LSU. But to me, attacking of the middle of the field is going to be really, really interesting on how well the Rams do defending that.
As far as the coaching matchup in this one, Sean McVay in his second Super Bowl as a head coach, Zach Taylor of Cincinnati doing a tremendous job and was on McVay's staff before with the Rams. What do you look at in terms of the coaching, and what a job Cincinnati's defense did against Kansas City in the AFC title game, huh?
Well, first you look at McVay, his coaching tree. It's really like a sapling, isn't it? He hasn't been a head coach that long, but look at the branches that are growing. You got Zach Taylor in Cincy. You got Staley with the Chargers. They're an up-and-coming team. You got LaFleur in Green Bay. They've won a lot in the regular season. You have now Kevin O'Connell is going to go leave the Rams and go be head coach of the Vikings. All guys who were with McVay. All guys, by the way, who didn't call plays because McVay calls the plays, but still know that offense. And they've all been successful at this level now to the point where Zach is in the Super Bowl. So, and you're right. I mean, the adjustments they made at halftime against Kansas City went more to a 3 rush and an 8 drop. Really, really worked. It definitely got the better of Kansas City. It was like night and day difference of first half and second half, and Kansas City did not adjust well back. Cincinnati doesn't have really any monster superstar names. Trey Hendrickson had a great year coming over from New Orleans, big contract, 14 sacks, had a nice year. But they have a lot of guys who play hard and are in the right place at the right time. They're very efficient defense.
And I'll get you out this one. We appreciate the time here, Mike. Mike Golic would be most surprised at what? Finish that sentence for me, because you've seen a lot of these big games and Super Bowls over the years. I'm not sure much surprises you. Mike Golic will be surprised at what?
If this game ends and under sack, how many times Joe Burrow was sacked, it says 0. That would surprise me the most.
All right. Well, check him out. The Golic Family Podcast doing work now for Westwood One Sports, part of the broadcast team with Laura Oakman, Kevin Harlan, and Kurt Warner on the call. Westwood One, Mike Golic. So nice to hear your voice again. All the best and enjoy the big one on Sunday.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Mike Golic here with us, the former NFL defensive lineman and morning show host, now with Westwood One Sports, as we get you set for Super Bowl 56 coming up tomorrow on ESPN Radio 94.1.